I just realized I was doing a whole thing thinking I was recording, talking about the key words in our dictionary here, just because there were parts where like uh there were parts where like we kind of the words were mentioned once, but we don't really go over it much more. So I was gonna kind of say, okay, so I was gonna go through each word and just kind of give a quick explanation or explain more where I felt like it was necessary. Camarilla, basically vampire government. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna start with a recap. So, so obviously I haven't played since the last episode, um, because this is episode 3, and I still have to upload episode 2, but basically everything was done in night 1, and or everything from night 1 was done. Basically, we went to a nightclub, a vampire lady found us, turned us into a vampire, we killed someone, and then the long-haired guy in the suit found us, basically told us that we have to hide who we are and all that. Uh, we were about to be executed, but a redheaded lady saved us. That gave us an apartment. And then started kind of explaining some things to us. So anyways, I'm going to go over some of the terms and stuff, just to kind of like re-explain some of the things of this universe that our character is in now. The Camarilla, basically, they're the vampire government. There's a lot of like political intrigue and stuff, obviously, and they do a lot of stuff to like it says, to influence and manipulate mortal society. A fledgling, that's literally just a newly created vampire. Us. Prince. So the person who was going to have us executed last time, the Prince of New York City, who ended up stopping because the redheaded lady spoke up for us. The hunger, basically that urge to drink blood. Vessel, source for sustenance, usually, it says or pleasure, usually mortal. Okay. The beast, basically all those urges that threaten to turn us into a mindless ravening monster. The masquerade. The habit or tradition, which we're going to get to the traditions in a second. Basically all that stuff about protecting protecting ourselves through hiding who we are. And then there's also a bit here about how it was actually adopted after the Inquisition. Because nobody suspects the Spanish Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Term for mortals. Kind. Retainer. Human who serves a vampire master. Usually for convenience and protection. The traditions. Okay, this one takes a little bit longer. Basically, it's the different vampire laws. The masquerade, which we already talked about. And the rest of these are usually debated a bit more, where there are different positions held by the different vampires on them. Like this one, thy domain is thine own concern. All others owe thee respect while in it. Some people take domain to just mean really like a prince's domain. Some people use it to refer to like turf, like feeding turf and all that. And then there's probably other stuff. Remember, when it comes to Vampire the Masquerade, there's some stuff I know, but there's a lot I do not know. Third tradition, the progeny. Thou shalt only sire another with the permission of thine elder. That was the one we were about to be executed for, since the person who sired us decided to just basically basically go and grab milk. fourth tradition, the accounting. Those who create thou create are thine own children. Their sins are thine to endure. Basically, like, if they do something, then they have to be able to handle. Some people say that, like, it means the sire. I don't know if actually there are vampires out there who would say that the sire would have to die, but I think that generally means that the sire has to carry out the punishment and all that. The fifth domain tradition, hospitality. Honor one another's domain. Without the word of acceptance, thou art nothing. I think that one is also debated between domain and turf type thing. Sixth tradition, destruction. Thou art forbidden to destroy another of thy kind. The right of destruction belongeth only to thine elder. This one is debated because people don't know if elder means prince or just elder. Actually, I could say the same about the progeny part as well. Moving on. Sect, basically just groups of vampires that they tend to argue. Like it says, arguably united under a common philosophy. The two main ones are the Camarilla, which is like I said, the vampire government, and the Anarch movement, which is a group that generally does not like the Camarilla. To put it simply, Sire, basically the the vampire lady who turned us. Sire. Haven, vampire's home or base. Very simple. Sheriff, basically what the guy in the suit with the long hair was. He was the guy who basically had to enforce the traditions, was ordered to execute us. Essentially, this is the guy who, he's literally the sheriff. Alright. Yeah, I just want to go over the keyword stuff real quick. I'm going to hit the rest button. Hunger is at the heart of a vampire's existence. To ignore it is to tempt the beast to take over in its desire to feed. To overindulge in feeding may threaten the masquerade while staining what humanity you have left. In Coteries of New York, having high hunger is indicated by a progressively thicker, bloody frame around the screen, like the one you see now. As your hunger grows, so does this indicator. Your hunger may increase when you call upon your vampiric powers, or when you need to mend your wounds after a fight. When your hunger reaches the maximum level, you'll receive a warning after you complete a piece of the story. Ignore it at your own peril. Some choices might only become visible if your hunger is high enough. Similarly, your hunger may block off some choices, as you will be able to see after pressing continue. Blocked off. Ah, you son of a bitch. To decrease your hunger, you will need to feed. Whenever you see a feeding opportunity, you can take the risk to hunt and slake your hunger. Feeding opportunity. You will need to keep the hunger at bay if you were... Okay, basically just tutorial stuff. You open your eyes. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid... Graphical glitch here. The solid metal door is closed. Normally you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. But that was before. The way you woke up now, you are fully conscious. No grogginess, nothing weighing you down. Just the nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger. Not as severe as the last time, but unmistakably there. You get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows you the time. 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is NYC's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You missed the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out of the apartment and figuring this all out by yourself. But then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword being raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad of an idea after all. You keep jumping channels for around half an hour and then switch to streaming services. Almost as if the universe had a sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie, the redheaded lady. Good evening, Cruggles. Slept well? Like a dead man. I'm gonna BS. I want to learn, so it's not exactly a sleep. It's not really like normal sleep, is it? I suppose it isn't. Some say it's more like being dead, but we wouldn't know, would we? It's no use reflecting on it anyway. Except that this is who you are now. You made the right choice yesterday. I could teach you many things about yourself. Your blood, its desires, and its powers. We will begin tonight. You are hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There is only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way you slake your thirst. So tonight I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerabilities to your advantage. I keep yawning and I don't know why. Predator and prey, huh? Grim. So let me get this straight. We are predators, humans are prey? That's pretty grim. I know what you feel. I remember the notion. But you will, inevitably, grow beyond it. You need blood to thrive, but there are many ways to take it. Some more humane than others. That's good. You will find that drinking moderate amounts of it will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kind pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation, but if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeding. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. That is why the masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. I want to know how to cover my tracks, because biting people leaves marks, right? And the victims remember your face. You shouldn't concern yourself with leaving marks. These are easy to conceal. You just need to bite carefully and then lick the punctures closed. That's all there is to it. As for being remembered, like I mentioned, the kiss is an ecstatic experience. So kind can barely recall the details. Hey, thank you. She is enormous. You could spend days on the streets and not see the same face twice. Use that to your advantage. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out, you risk the ire of other kindred on whose domains you trespass. Lucky for you, NYC is more forgiving in this regard. New York is in somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves these upcoming nights. As long as you hunt cautiously and respect the masquerade at all times, you should be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. Gregory, I think, is retainer. The busy street fills the air with traffic noise, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. Oh, and I see the red around. You cut yourself. Did you really just think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her, and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car casually joins the somewhat thinned New York traffic. It's still busy. Sorry, that noise disturbed me. It's still busy in a way only one of the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to the daytime commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have the time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're among the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. Come, Cruggles, park the car, Gregory, will you? The driver just nods and Sophie gets out. You join her and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, then take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet still in the back, then take in the few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seeming concluded, the patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, have spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse that she flashes in front of a security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually prove quite challenging to an inexperienced kindred, but consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I'm hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. Now let's see here. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How's your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl. Come over, please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. The young woman who walks across the hall can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and the partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't fit this crowd. Julie, this is Cruggles. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods towards the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure what it is Sophie expects you to do. You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out the next step. If you're with Sophie, then I guess you're, you know. She puts her wrist to her lips and gives herself a theatrical nip, then looks to you, embarrassed, but also hopeful? What, you're into that sort of I'm into this sort of thing? She blushes, then looks down at the floor, then nods. Could you? If you'd like. Miss Langley tells me So Langley is her last name, right? She swallows hard, avoids your eyes. That I taste nice. If she's asking, I don't see why not. You take her forearm into your hands, a quick look around confirms nobody's watching, and no security cameras cover this area. You bite down gently. It's surreal. She's just giving you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. Your thoughts disappear amid the bliss. There's just the taste. Sweet, fresh, sanguine. You drink, and drink, and drink. No, stop, stop, stop! You tear away from the girl harder than you wanted. Still, the bite leaves just tiny punctures. Almost as if by instinct, you lick them clean. You lick them clean. And the two holes become concealed just like that. Julie is now leaning on the wall, pale, wobbly on her feet, but happy? She lets out a dreamy sigh, opens her eyes. A few tears fall onto her shirt. Tears of joy. Thank you. Please, can you walk me downstairs? Please? My dad, he doesn't know. Thinks it's a condition. Miss Langley told him so. She leans on you and requests you walk her over to a bench. She takes a seat and smiles at you. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly. Looking at her now, only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yes, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, sure. But not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid to talk to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with, Cruggles. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only in the car that Sophie addresses you. I can tell from your look that you took the opportunity. Good for you. That girl's exquisite, don't you think? You wouldn't tell by her demeanor, but she has so much passion. It brings out a unique bouquet in her blood. I don't feel like I took advantage if she was genuinely asking, but she knows who we are. I think she knows who we are. That's not normal, right? It's not usual, that much is true, but don't worry. She will do anything I tell her to, and won't say anything to anyone that I haven't put in her pretty head first. Okay, that worries me. Time for the next stop. Training wheels off this time. Gregory, Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over the Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. I want to know, yeah, what did you do to those people at the back at the hall? They were all entranced. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. That old trick? Just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherit from our sire. Others can be learned with experience. I can sway people or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace, and more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. How exactly do I use these talents? You will the blood to do your bidding. Many times you'll find you do these things intuitively, almost passively, but making an entire room focus their attention on you? That is tempting the beast. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes in the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight, the stars just barely visible in the light-polluted aura of the city. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go, look for somebody to your liking. See what victims you can achieve with your blood, but only pick one victim. Just one. Then come back. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have a few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or someone like them could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby. In worst case scenario, there's someone bound to be someone fortunate wino around. Or maybe there's the tennis court nearby. There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing a late night match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios play out in your mind, you realize you're planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but the now familiar hunger prompts you to act. Alright, so I do need to feed, but I don't want to do the tennis courts, because I feel like they're near the decrepit pavilion. I feel like the pavilion there would be no cameras, but I also worry if there's a homeless person, then I could potentially contract something. And I'm going to search for a victim around the park. You start walking. The park's many avenues must hold a good spot or two for a predator like yourself. You pass 2 soccer fields and circle around where the Fountain of the Planets once awed visitors with its spectacle before coming across an opportunity. A woman, a small duffel bag on her arm, is making her way through the park in a hurry. She doesn't seem to have noticed you yet. I don't want to just attack her. I want to see. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall. How she managed to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her. That might be a tall order for you, but a single person could be doable. For a moment you're thinking how an old guy in a hood should appear over your shoulder saying, "Use the Force, Cruggles." It feels ridiculous. But then something stirs within you. There's a confidence there, an allure that you might have had before, but one that's increased manifold in this moment. You catch the woman's eye. She flashes an unsure smile, almost in spite of herself, as she passes you by. Hey, you. She's tense, gripping her bag close, but attentive. Her eyes lock onto yours. The slight smile is there again. Yes? What is it? Almost intuitively, you close the distance between you. She can't look away. She's unprepared for what follows. In a swift move, you grab her and bite down. Her surprise resonates in her blood. Hot, excited, fast-flowing, she tenses up, then relaxes. The duffel bag hits the ground. Bliss. Footsteps. You let go of her. She drops to the ground, barely conscious. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. What do you think you're doing, barging in my turf like this, you lick? Okay, this man has red eyes. It's very clear. Lick? What kind of slur is that? What do you call me? What's that supposed to mean? Don't be cute with me. I know what you are. Shove that masquerade bullshit up your ass. Better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. Big talk. Okay, he's being big talk coming from a chump, and he looks smaller than you. But I'm thinking you're just a chump. Want to prove me wrong? He tenses up, gives you an extremely nasty look, and bares his fangs. You don't want to push your luck, dumb fuck. My crew is in earshot. One shot away, and you're D-O-N-E done. You get what I'm saying? So if you want to dance, let's dance. Once I'm through, I'm gonna hand you over to Camarilla, and you're gonna be sorry I didn't finish you off instead. Oh, to Callahan, that's what they said. Let's see. I don't know if... Okay, Celerity is the super speed one. Call for help. He's already... It's clear that he intends on making sure that I... Unfortunately, you know, if it were up to me, I wouldn't have said either of the previous 3 options. Unfortunately, but... you know. Listen. I don't want to... One of the traditions says don't destroy any others, so... Take off. Fast. Faster than you've ever run. The hoodlum has trouble keeping up, but howls behind you like an animal and gives chase anyway. As you reach the Unisphere again, you slow down, noticing 2 people near the sculpture, a man and woman, tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding, but this whole scene is set up so that it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet as she lets go of him and leads him towards a nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Cruggles, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at the 3 of you, and a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. Thought you could run away from me, Lick? Think you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, but 2 things happen almost at the same time. First, that feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. His shout comes out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from a holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Just like that, in a few seconds, the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Cruggles. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? Said this was his turf. I'm not gonna... that I trespassed on it. I thought this place was supposed to be safe? Well, he's not a part of the Camarilla. Corona Park hasn't been claimed by anyone I know of. Curious. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this hoodlum's acquaintance. Gregory carries the staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy that you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing a stiff into your car and driving away. But then you remember that Sophie's been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is a dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it has perks. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I will pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium, and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the Prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. I don't want to say either of these, but what's going to happen to him? The usual, I imagine, interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial, with the prince in attendance if she's there tomorrow night. A swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you, and you can't help but feel a pang of guilt when you think about what awaits this guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me about how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope? It'll take some getting used to. I'll need time to get used to this. It doesn't come naturally. It will, with time. You need to think about it less. Hunting is the one scenario in which you'll do well to trust your instincts. In moderation, of course. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory with the body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Her haven is just as you left it hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learn something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the door. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. A decision. This time you turn the light off. You think back to Julie. How many people in the city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park? If he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires? How does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night when you can start crossing them off the list instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. It greets you with open arms, like an old friend. Oh, and I love like how the little rivers and whatnot are like, or I think those are supposed to be rivers. I love how it looked like they were flowing with blood. I like that. Sorry, little details. All right, I'm gonna end this episode here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters, my Deuterinos.